Well, hello, hello, hello to everybody here. It's Teresa Sanderson. Oh my gosh, I'm excited to connect with you today for another episode of Dare to Do Nursing Differently. We have with us a very special guest, Rebecca Emery, who is a certified career coach who's joining us today. And Rebecca, I just want to say a quick thanks to you for joining us. I appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, for those of you in our audience who do not know Rebecca yet, I want to give you a little bit of her background. She is a registered nurse with more than 3 decades of experience. She's worked clinical areas, leadership, and educational roles. She's worked in more than 10 different specialties throughout her nursing career. Wow. And so that brings with her just a perspective on the complexities and possibilities within the nursing profession. So today she serves as a certified nurse career coach. And Rebecca, again, I'm just really excited to have you here with me today. Thank you again for sharing time.
Oh, no, thank you again. I'm happy to be here, happy to share what I have and talk with you about nurses and all everything.
Awesome, awesome. So, my audience is all nurses and nurse entrepreneurs, and we typically like to go back to the beginning. Tell us a little bit about, how did you get started in nursing, to begin with, and what kind of things did you do as a new nurse? What kind of work did you do?
Okay, yeah, well, we're talking about 3 decades ago, over 3 decades. And
I'm in the same boat.
yeah, and I was one of those people who absolutely considered no other career.
Wow.
Even in second grade, when our teachers were asking, what do you want to do when you grow up? I just said, nurse.
Wow. I love that.
I don't know if it was because of the traditional jobs that we talked about back then. You have the traditional doctor, lawyer, nurse, those things. And I just thought, that's me. I'm going to be a nurse. And I wrote a little second grade essay on why I wanted to be a nurse. And
Oh,
just kept it going. And then all the way through high school when I'm in classes and people were like talking about what they were going to do and what college they were going to go to. I'm like, well, just tell me where to go to be a nurse.
well, that simplified the process.
It did, but it kind of complicated things in my own world because when my kids were all growing up and I have, adult children now, and they were
Yeah.
coming through, and I'm asking them, well, what do you guys want to do? And they're like, oh, Mom, I don't know. I'm like, what? know. And so, started helping them search through and strategically planning and deciding, what road they were going to take was actually a huge learning process because for some reason I just knew from second grade that that's what I was doing.
Wow, wow. I love that. So you just had that on your heart from the time you were a child and you just kind of grew into it.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about, in your bio, I mentioned that you've worked in 10 different specialty areas. What drew you to that kind of work and even moving, around in specialties? What did you find intriguing about that?
Well, and Teresa, it was actually those 10 specialties were my first 15 years as a nurse.
Wow.
So it was a lot of work then now that I realize that the soul
Mm.
searching, the insightfulness, the what do you love, what don't you love, what are you fitting into your life versus the opposite way.
Mhm.
And I started looking at what do I want, what do I need. And
Mhm.
as I was doing that, sometimes things look great on paper.
Mhm.
And I would get in there and find out, oh no, this isn't working for me, for whatever it was. And
Mhm.
so I was getting very disheartened, like, well, did I choose poorly? Did I not really need to be the nurse? Did I need to do more insightfulness back then? And then it was like nursing just offers so many opportunities. So I started
Mhm.
really looking into what was out there, because we're only exposed to just a few in school.
Right, right.
And so I really started exploring and eventually found it and then grew within that. So did just a couple more pivots from there. But that's how I went for those 10 specialties at the beginning was just a lot of soul searching. Some of them I did love,
Mhm.
for a time being, in
Mhm.
that time. But there were some that were just absolutely completely wrong. And,
Yeah.
you're kind of doing this trial and error, and it's tough. And so that's kind of how I ended up in those 10 different specialties.
Wow. And I love hearing that. And I love hearing it from the perspective of, some people might say, and back in the day, if you switch jobs too much, people kind of look at you as a job hopper, right? Or something like that. Whereas when I talked to my husband about that, because I've had a career that kind of hopped around as well, and Greg said, of course, he's in a totally other industry, and he just said, I think that sounds like a very rounded nurse, in my opinion, right? So I kind of threw a lot of like guilt and shame and failure. Oh gosh, nothing's working for me, whatever. But I love that you shared your story from the aspect of I was trying these roles on to see which one was going to work the best for me. It sounds like you gathered a lot of information, you read the info. Some of them were like what the info said, some were not, but you just kind of bobbed and weaved until you landed in the right spot.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. And so you mentioned something that I think is so important, and I think you and I talked about this before, that it's so important for nurses to find a job that fits into their lifestyle rather than trying to fit their lifestyle into what the job requires. Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, you really have to think about what your life is, what's happening in your current life, because things change too throughout your life. And, I've seen a lot of nurses where work gets in the way. So, it's like, no, it needs to be your job is working for you, not the priority in your life is the job.
Yeah.
So it is really, that's what you need to do, is find out what it is. What are your non-negotiables? What are, is it a schedule that you need? Is it camaraderie that you need in a job? Is it, do you like being by yourself when you work and get it done? You want your life to fit, because if you're going to be stressed the whole time while you're working, it's not going to fit your lifestyle. But let's
Mhm.
face it, there are people who function with the stress and they want the stress and that fits in their lifestyle. So what's going to fit in your lifestyle?
Mhm.
Do you have kids? Do you need weekends off? Do you need, nights off? Do you rather work the nights because you want, it's all those things that come into your life. And you really have to do an introspection of what your life is at this current time, or even in the future as things change and planning. What is it that you need your job to fit in to you rather
Yeah.
than the opposite? So that's what
Man.
I mean when I say that.
And that is just so powerful. And I believe it's one of the things that we don't get educated on in nursing school, right? So thank you for sharing. That is just such a powerful, powerful concept. And I know it's what has worked for me as well. But we learn it on the fly. So again, thank you for sharing that. So what drew you, here you were navigating your nursing career. What drew you to start a business?
Well, I was loving what I was doing, and let me just add one more thing.
Sure.
I have taken pivots for jobs that actually involved more work, but it felt and aligned with me.
Sure.
So, that's something to consider as well. And I was working, and now I'm hiring nurses in.
Hmm.
And now there I'm seeing it from the other side, where I'm working in a specialty that nurses want to be in. They're doing all of the work, getting the interview, doing great on the interview, coming in, getting the orientation, and then completely being unhappy.
Oh my.
And I'm getting phone calls, even now, as somebody who's bringing them in, they want to look great to me, and so they're not sharing with me at the beginning that
Mm.
they're not happy. And then I'm finding out through a phone call, hey, you're Rebecca, your nurse is crying in the bathroom. Like,
Oh
what?
my.
So I started seeing things when some nurses came in, some were happy, some came in, thought it was something else and weren't happy and maybe just needed a little bit of hand holding and getting them through and then being happy. And then I saw the nurses that were completely not a fit for the role, even though they thought they did.
Wow.
And so a lot of what I did when bringing nurses in was seeing where they were when they got there and really trying to see if this was a good fit for them, even though they thought it was. So I just started helping nurses. Some stayed and some
Yeah.
didn't. And the ones
Yeah.
that didn't, I helped move to where they needed to be by looking at insightfulness, looking at, what it is they were looking for and helping them move. I want you to be here, but only if you want to be here. If
Yeah.
if this isn't for you, let's find what's for you. And that's kind of where it all started.
Hmm.
So I actually had the opportunity to leave my position because I had taken the retirement.
Okay.
And so when I left, I started having nurses call me asking me, I have a friend, can I send her to you? And so that's where it kind of started.
Wow.
And so then I just started building on it. And first it was just referrals. And
Hmm.
then I started, loving it more and getting ideas of how I could help in a better way, and
Yeah.
started just working on it. And that's now where I am. Yes, I'm still, doing that, but in a different way because I'm getting to a lot more nurses and I love it.
Wow. Well, I love hearing this story. And I always talk about, business is really simple. Find a need and fill it. This is a need that you identified even while working in your regular full-time role. And somehow, while you were doing that, you were obviously doing it well while you were working, that when you left, people reached out and said, Hey, we still need you. We still need you to do this. And now it's grown from there. That's incredible.
Yeah, it
Love
is. I
that.
mean, I know it's now like, it sometimes the need, it's natural,
Mhm. Mhm.
sometimes the need just shows up and comes to you and then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm actually really good at helping nurses find where they need to be.
Yeah, I love that. I love that for you. So, how do you serve your clients today? What kind of things? I know we're talking about career coaching, but what does that look like?
So now, yeah, that's when I meet with a nurse, and I started recently actually going to more of preventive planning because I started realizing the value in it. We're in the medicine industry, and
Right.
we know prevention is actually where you need to be, and that's the same for nurses. But where, of course, I started, and where I still do, is in helping the nurse that's been around for a while and
Hmm.
realizes that the foundation that they started with their first job and getting started isn't where they want to stay. And
Hmm.
so the one-to-one coaching is, okay, well, where do you want to go? Let's look at what do you love? What don't you love? And all the things we just talked about earlier and
Hmm.
more with all what do I want in my life? What do I want it to look like? What's the perfect job look like to me?
Sure.
Is it a full-time 40 hour? Is it 40-hour plus? Is it just a 24 hour? Is it, I
Hmm.
see a lot of glamour in people wanting to work from home, but then again, that isn't for everyone either. We need to
Yep.
look at everything and every aspect of that career and what it looks like and what you need to get there. So the one-to-one coaching is part of that. And it's over a 2 month is what I am doing right now.
Okay.
And then I started realizing that there were some nurses too that just wanted to talk it out with you. They've done some of their own searching and they've, have some questions and they kind of want to know how to get there and they want that action plan. So I
Hmm.
have like a little smaller one that I do with those. So it just
Okay.
kind of tailored for what you need. And it's also meeting you where you are because let's face it, sometimes you don't realize you need to move to burnout.
Yes.
And which is why I did get certified, because yes, I was doing what I was doing with this career strategy and planning for nurses. But when I found that I met a lot of nurses where they were at burnout,
Mm-hmm.
and I needed to start there. So
Yeah.
I'll meet them there and then we'll strategize and move. And then,
Right.
yes, and then prevention, because for the new grads, um, career planning is so needed.
Yes.
Let's not wait till we're burned out. Let's not
Yes.
wait till we're figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start, yes, but what are the moves we're going to make while we're happy where we are, loving where we are, building the foundation? Let's look now where we want to go and make that plan so that when you need to, you're not thinking with a different lens. You're not already at that burnout phase and not being able to think. Because for those of us who have gone through burnout, at one point or the other, it's
Mm-hmm.
so hard to make those decisions at that time. So
Right.
I'm really trying to get a little bit more into prevention.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. And so important, like you said, for all levels of nurses, whether you're just coming in, whether you've been here a while, I believe every nurse can benefit from this because, I mean, we just to drive a car, you have to know how do you turn it on? How do you do this? How do you do that? Which kind of car are you going to feel most comfortable in? It's the same thing when looking at our career. So we have to know how to operate it, how to navigate it successfully and for longevity, right? That's
Right.
the key, the longevity piece.
Right. Let's stay in nursing too. There are so many
Yeah.
opportunities. And it is just, I mean, from when, I started,
Hmm.
it's tripled in the opportunities that are out there now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, share with us what is one thing that you enjoy, or what's the thing you enjoy most about working for yourself?
I like um, being able to be creative and be that person that can, definitely get you where you're going. I just, um, the freedom of doing that when it just becomes such a part of you, right? When you're an entrepreneur and you're working for yourself, I probably work more now. So, but I love what I'm doing. So it's
Right.
just a different mindset of, I always tell my friends, this is what they tell me, "Oh, what are you loving?" And actually I love Mondays. I mean, that
Hmm.
they kind of laugh at me, but that has been my thing. My brain is always going. And then on the weekend, sometimes I'm thinking, oh, and then comes Monday, boom, I'm here on my desk Monday morning, putting everything that I want to put into action. And so
Right.
Mondays has become my favorite day. And so that's what I love most about entrepreneurs, just loving what I'm doing and being able to create and being happy that you have that Monday, because
Hmm.
I've had many times where I've had that
Yeah.
scary Sundays and
Hmm.
after doing the 312s and like, oh, you have the one day to rest and the one day to
Yeah.
reset, and then the next day you can get anxiety because you don't want to be there. So
Right. Right. Oh my gosh, that is all so good. Everybody does need to be able to say that they love Mondays. You know, everybody needs to be able to say that. Oh my gosh. So, one last question before we finish up here. I just want to ask you, you and I both know that there are a lot of nurses who may be looking for another opportunity, right? Maybe looking to start a business, wishing they could start a business, or and thinking, oh, I don't know how, or how could I ever get started? I probably couldn't afford to get started, or just wouldn't know where to begin. What's the one piece of advice you would share with a nurse who's thinking of starting a business?
start. Um, do it when you're thinking about it. Start it then,
Hmm.
and then learn, because it's different. So it's a learning curve.
Yeah.
And so start looking at what it looks like and start it and just go forward and move. Learn from people who, yes, know what they've done already. Learn from those who have done it and just get started and go.
I love that. Oh my gosh, so decisive. Just start and then learn. And I think that's the thing because you pretty much have to be a lifelong learner to be an entrepreneur because something is always changing. There's always something new that's going on. So I tend to tell people, becoming an entrepreneur is like the greatest personal development program that I've ever put myself through. Because your business cannot outgrow you. So I love that perspective. Just get started and learn. Mm, fantastic. Fantastic advice. All right. So, Rebecca, I just want to thank you again for joining me today. And also, I would love it if you would just take a couple of minutes right now and share with our audience, how can they connect with you outside of this interview and how can they reach you?
Oh, thank you. Yes. So actually, the name of my business, I'm the founder of My Nurse Specialty. And you can find me at my website, mynursespecialty.com. And I offer my coaching packages on there. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn with my name, Rebecca Emery. And I do have a newsletter that you can subscribe to that comes out every week that gives some helpful information on finding your nurse specialty. And have new things coming up in the work. So don't miss out. You'll want to follow so that you or connect so that you can come up with the new things that I've got coming up because I'm really excited about some digital products that I'm bringing soon. And also wanted to give the awareness of all the specialties that are out there. And so I'm trying to highlight that a little bit more so that we can know, when people are thinking about where they want to go, they actually have some insight of what's out there and not the ones that are just out there, that the ones that are kind of hidden, that aren't even putting the nurse tag on there. So,
Mhm.
just follow me for more, look at my website or find me on LinkedIn, or I'm actually on Instagram too. And I'm doing that as well. And so you can find me saying, make it easy, just make it easy. My nurse specialty.
My nurse specialty. Oh my gosh, I love that. Rebecca, you're doing a piece of work that is so, so very important in guiding nurses to stay in their careers. I believe there's so many different aspects that are involved in keeping nurses in the workforce. And I believe this one is a very, very important one. So I want to thank you for what you're doing, for leading the way with mynursespecialty.com. And any of you who are feeling like you haven't found your space in nursing, that you're just not finding that right fit, maybe you've had trouble navigating your career, I want to encourage you to reach out to Rebecca. She's a strong resource for that kind of thing. And just know that you have support. No nurse has to do it alone. So, again, Rebecca, thank you for joining me, and I appreciate you being here.
Oh, if I can add one more thing, you got to make me think.
Oh,
If
sure.
you're a nurse who loves what you're doing, please reach out too, because I want to hear about the nurses who love where they're at, because that's how other nurses are going to find it too,
Mm,
by knowing, hey, I'm
absolutely.
in this. And I'd be happy to add it to my resource and being available for what nurses can find out there.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, thank you again, Rebecca, for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. That concludes this episode of Dare to Do Nursing Differently, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.